All right, welcome back to another Wright Stew podcast. I am Paul Stewart.
And I am Brian Wright, and we have made it to kind of my favorite day. The end of this day is kind of my favorite day. It's Friday Eve, it's Thursday. Kind of my favorite day. You get through it, then you got Friday, then you're kind of there. This is mentally how I've had to, as an adult, just get through. That sounds so terrible. I never wanted to be the guy. Like I tell my kids, like when they're working out or when they're hitting or doing something to try to help themselves get better, don't just get through it. Don't just get through it. Embrace and be present in the moment to be able to get better and really try to improve. Don't just get through it.
Good life advice.
I feel like it's good life advice, but it is hard as an adult, right, to not just get through it, right? I've got something I got to do. You got this call you got to make. You got this person who's not happy with you or is whatever. And it's just very hard not just to get through it.
Yeah, that's fair. And maybe some of it depends on how passionate you are about what you're doing, what the goals are, that sort of thing. And I think as you enter adulthood, and if you're in a corporate position, sometimes it's like, I just got to get through this thing, got to make it through. And there's definitely ebbs and flows in any career sort of thing. So yeah, I know, I get it for sure. I think athletics are something just totally different.
I agree. That's where I was getting ready to go next. I think a lot of times, like in your sales and different things, people are like, hey, I want an athlete. I'm just convinced that physical competition, along with mental competition, is different than what you do in a real life. I do think that competitive nature can come out in certain environments, but it's really apples and oranges. Hey, get your stickers.
And Brian, if you're watching on YouTube, Brian, with a fresh cut, Brian looking good.
Yeah, this is my first haircut of 2025, and I may have went a while. You can never always tell, like, and this is pathetic, but haircuts have gotten real expensive. Man. Like, I can vividly remember my haircut when I was a child being $7 or $6.
$5.
Mine was 6 or 7. We went to a salon with my mother. She had a person who cut it. She did a really good job. She had the fancy pictures up. And then in college, I didn't pay anything. I always found somebody who cut hair, and I'd give him a little bit of money, or I'd give him some tobacco, something, kind of treat. Yeah. And then in pro baseball, you'd find a Dominican guy who was kind of trained and, had been doing it since he was 8 or 10 years old, and you pay them a little bit of money and cut you high and tight. You get the same cut, kind of like I got now.
Yeah.
But I was usually a 2 guy. Now I'm a 3 guy. Probably should be a 4 guy because it's a little bit short. But now, with tip, dude, I'm in the $30-some range, dude.
Yeah.
For a regular
I go 1 on the side just so I don't have to go as often.
Yeah, I can't do. I start getting neck hair, right? I've got to go ever so often. But I did stretch this one out. It had to be over. It's probably a 14, 15-week kind of stretch that I went. It was pretty good. Almost 4 months.
Little quarterly cut, yeah. I remember 2005, I was in Indianapolis, and I was living in a hotel. Like I just got called up. I didn't want to, I didn't crash anybody's apartment or a couch. I just stayed in the hotel, and I needed a haircut. And it was kind of an odd time because, like most teams have a guy or a couple guys, who cut hair,
and you throw them a little bit of money or grab
$5, $10 whatever it was, and you do it like legit. You would just get your haircut in the shower, like in the locker room, get your haircut, and then. But there was nobody on the team that year that cut hair for whatever reason. And so I went to the mall in downtown Indy. So first of all, I was looking for like a barbershop in downtown Indy, and there was none. So I ended up at a salon? And I went to the mall and spent like $25 on a haircut. And a guy's haircut takes literally like 10 minutes tops. Like
it should. Now, my lady today, I think because she knew, like, I felt like I was spending too much in there. Like, she really, really, I mean, it was like a 30-minute haircut.
Oh, geez.
I got the lady's life story, too. I don't know. I don't feel comfortable necessarily giving her life story. But let me tell you this. I learned that she was divorced. She was married for 19 years, got divorced in 2015. I learned a lot of details about this lady, a lot of more I could share. I feel like certain people, like, feel very comfortable, and I like real conversation. Sometimes, though, when I'm getting a haircut, I just want to sit in silence, let them massage. When the little clippers come on vibrating and they get around you, just kind of enjoy it. This one, I was full conversation mode. I learned a lot about this lady's life. Been cutting hair for 30 years. Yeah, two children. Just moved a few away from Sanford. But yeah, so anyway, really nice lady. I felt obligated to tip her a lot.
Yeah, she gave you all the juice.
Yeah.
The other thing too, so sports clips, right? Is a weird. I understand the concept, but nobody goes during a game time to watch, like to get a haircut. Like I've never been. I don't think I've ever been to sports club. I've always been there like in the morning, like a Saturday morning or a. That there's no like games are on at 7 at night. Nobody goes to get a haircut. At least I don't. I don't know. Maybe people do. It's a weird.
Yeah. I think maybe certain people do. I was in the afternoon and I was getting, it was a place that's kind of similar to that. There's a nicer place. I've had some. The older I get, if you start getting a little thin, get some power alleys right, and then you go to get a beard haircut, it can make a big difference. Anyway, on to the sporting news world.
Let's stay in pop culture for a second, Brian.
Okay. Oh yeah, we got a good one.
Yeah, well, not a good one. Very sadly, Val Kilmer.
Maybe good. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord.
There you go. Well said. But Val Kilmer passed away. Brian, do you have any favorite Val Kilmer movies or characters or just stories that you'd like to share?
I did not know him personally.
Okay,
but,
me neither.
It's hard to argue with Iceman, dude. I was thinking, man, obviously they found a role for him in the last one in 2022.
Oh, great. Oh, man, Maverick was so good. And he was great, man.
And obviously he was sick then.
Yeah.
But man, just Iceman, just that character. I was trying to look back, man. I remember him. I guess Wyatt Earp? Wasn't he in Wyatt Earp and Tombstone? I mean, he was
in two. But hold on, let's go. Tell people what your walk-up song was when you played at NC State.
Well, I wasn't. And Paul, you're a real music man. Like you name all these songs, and so when I got there, my first one was like some Metallica song, and like I knew a little. I'm not a big music guy, and that probably makes me a little bit weird. I mean, I like music. If it's not too loud. I told you sometimes I ride in the car, complete silence.
Silence, yeah.
Psychopath. But I was Top Gun,
Yeah.
Top
Gun, there you go. Iceman, yeah.
Dude, I mean, so my first year I had Metallica. I didn't know the song. It really didn't do much for me. Initially I wanted to do no song because I didn't like coaches talking to me. I didn't want anybody to talk to me when I was like third in the lineup. I was very much, and I don't know if that was kind of beat into me when I was young. Like, hey, you need to lock in and on deck. But I really did not want any conversation. I didn't want to have to go pick up balls. Sometimes, balls get behind the catcher.
Foul ball, yeah.
Yeah, and normally the on deck guy will run over there to get it. And I'm like, yeah, somebody else get this thing. And so I got the guy that was in the hole to get it. And I would get it if I was in the hole. But I didn't like to get it when I was on deck. So, yeah. But yeah, Top Gun. What about outside of Maverick and Top Gun? What do you remember him in? What jumps off for you?
So in Tombstone, he was Doc Holliday.
Yes.
I'm your Huckleberry. He was Batman for I think a couple Batman movies.
Yeah.
Do you remember the movie Real Genius from the 80s?
Oh, yes. That's the one I was trying to find as we were talking. I was like, do I remember him very early on?
Yeah.
Like,
that was like a second movie.
Yeah, it was good. What year was it?
It was like 85, I want to say, or 80, maybe 83 in that time frame.
85. I found it.
Okay, the one I really loved as a kid. Do you remember the movie Willow?
I never saw it. I see it on here as I look, dude. What a
he was Mad Mardigan. He was like a warrior kind of guy. I love the movie. It was like very like Dungeons and Dragons kind of fantasy kind of stuff. Me and my little brother loved that movie. So he was that, and then of course he was on Heat, right? He was one of the main characters in Heat as well, which is just a classic. So he played a lot of great parts. I do have one movie that I hate so much that he was in. And I'll tell you this story. So we and my wife and I, we were actually talking about this last night, where we used to just go to the movies because it was cheap, and we would just go see stuff like
even if you weren't really, and it was cheap enough to where you could go, and it wasn't like it would break a budget. Yeah,
no, it's like $5 a ticket. You could go have a movie, large popcorn, large soda, less than $20. Easy peasy, right? So. and there was a lot of, and I guess Netflix and some of these other things have kind of killed the theaters a little bit. But anyway, so this was like winter of '99. We got in a little run where we were going to see a lot of movies with some other couples and things. So we went and saw this movie At First Sight. It was Mira Sorvino and Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer's character was born blind. They had some sort of surgery. They got him vision back.
Okay, I see it on there. Yeah,
and it was a terrible movie. I hated it. Like, and it was like in the winter too. Like the theater was too hot, so I was like in the theater sweating. It was just super.
That's a foul.
It was
I don't ever. Yeah,
it was one of the only movies in my life ever I wanted to just like get up and walk out. It was so like I hated it. So then the next week we go out with it was actually the people we went out with. It was my brother-in-law, so my wife's brother, and one of their good friends from childhood. And the next week we went and saw a movie called Simply Irresistible with Sarah Michelle Gellar. She was somehow like a cook that had some sort of magic or something. There's like dancing. That was the worst movie I've ever seen at a theater. And so like on back-to-back weekends, we just saw two absolute stinkers. But it was like, it was $20. Like now I go to the theater.
But it was something to do, and then you talked about it. I'm notorious because I really like to go to the movies and be like surprised, and not really know what the movies are about. Now Maverick was different. There's been obviously a lot of your Marvel movies have been different. You kind of have an idea. But used to, I was the same way. They were so cheap, you could just go pick one. I think I watched a movie called Cabin Fever.
Oh, that was terrible. That's a terrible movie.
One of the worst horror movies.
He's My Pipes Are Clean. That movie was awful. That was a blockbuster for us. So I remember this too. We rented Cabin. Was it Cabin Boy? Was it you said?
I think Cabin Fever was mine, I think.
This was Cabin Boy.
Okay.
This is something different. Okay. We rented that and Natural Born Killers on the same.
Oh, that's pretty dark. Natural Born Killers, awful. I think, was.
Was it Woody Harrelson and.
It's definitely. It's not a movie you watch with females. I've seen it with guys, and.
I remember we stopped watching it because it was too much.
It is a lot. It's a lot for sure. A lot for sure.
Yeah.
But Val Kilmer. You go from 1985 to 2022 making movies and cancer in between and played Batman.
Yeah, Batman. He was The Doors. He was Jim Morrison. Like,
yeah,
man, he was so. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Val. Rest in peace. So, all right, let's get to the sports, Brian. I was flipping around. I've been watching a lot of staying up late, watching a lot of West Coast games. Watched a little bit of the A's in Sacramento. I mean, it feels like just so A's, like just it's a AAA ballpark. Like the visiting team was kind of complaining about it, and it's like, I don't know. It feels goofy. Really
they're in Sacramento for a long time too, aren't they? I mean, isn't it more than just isn't it 2 years?
It's like, well, yeah, just a couple years, yeah, but that's still it's. Man, it just feels weird. It doesn't feel right.
Well, it still feels weird because the A's, you don't have to go back that long ago, dude. The A's used to fill up that ballpark. And it's just weird how a falling out with the owner and kind of the community and how that all kind of the opposite of the banana effect. Like banana ball is selling out football stadiums.
Yeah.
And the A's couldn't even fill up their ball. It's just weird. Like if you have a way to really connect, I still have trouble, which I know this is always the conflict with all these places. But if you have a way to, make money and then ask for the community for $300, $400, $500 million, that don't feel right, but everybody does it. Because there are a lot of economical benefits that it provides, but it doesn't feel like you got a billionaire asking a town for tax benefit or this, 0 inch, whatever the case may be. And it just doesn't feel right. And I know that was kind of the deal with the A's. They wanted to upgrade. They wanted some help from the city, and it just turned into a mess.
But it's so crazy too. Have you ever been out like to the Bay, San Francisco, all that? So I was out there for a little bit. I mean, in the Cal League, and
I've been to San Francisco, but not spend a ton
But
of
the
time.
thing, you've got San Francisco, which is, and I haven't been there in 20 some years. Like I've heard it's gone downhill, right? But super dynamic, kind of vibrant. Got the beautiful ballpark, McCovey Cove. Like it seems like everything's going for it, right? And then you got Oakland. It's like you're across the bridge, dude. Like, what are we talking about? And I know there's been like kind of a resurgence. It feels like in Oakland, but yeah, I don't. I mean, I guess I don't. We don't know the socioeconomics enough to speak to it like
No.
really intelligently. But it feels like San Francisco's got it right there on the wall. Like Oakland, you can do the same thing. Just like wave at each other across the bay there, man. Like
It would have could have been awesome. You think about how much
yeah.
Oakland has lost from a sporting standpoint. I mean, they
Oh,
had
the
football.
Raiders. Yeah.
They had obviously great traditional baseball for 30, 40 years.
Yeah, even longer, yeah. So that's yeah. So it just feels weird, man. I kind of feel bad for the players and all that sort of thing. But
Well, I just think it. Yeah, I mean, you just devalue your product. I almost think you have to force organizations to do it differently. I know Tampa didn't really have any other choice with their situation, and I heard that
yeah,
Tampa Bay, that stadium deal is falling apart as well.
yeah, they got voted down. Yeah, I don't know because they're trying to do something like Atlanta did with that whole the Battery area there with shops and restaurants and
And I don't know the economics, but it's clear. Men, you have been to the Battery, and it is pretty awesome.
it's amazing. It really is. And man, Tampa's beautiful, man. There's a lot of great spots in Tampa, and that whole surrounding area. And it feels like there should be enough momentum and should be enough fandom and everything else to get that going. But you know what, man? If it doesn't work there, I'm all for the team moving to Nashville or Raleigh or Charlotte. 'Cause those seem to be the three names that are kind of along with Portland, which I don't think would work. But I think honestly, selfishly I would love to have it in Raleigh. Realistically, I think Nashville makes the most sense for the next big league franchise if you're moving Tampa somewhere. So
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree. And that was actually my next question. Where would you move it to? And
yeah, selfishly Raleigh, like realistically Nashville.
yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. The other thing, Brian, in looking at the stats at the time of this recording, there's 6 teams, major league teams, 6 of them batting under 200, under 200, and there are I think 4 more batting under 210. So 10 total teams
30%.
batting 210 or less. I mean, what are we looking at, right? Is pitching that good? Is hitting not great? I mean, a lot of relief pitchers coming in throwing 1,000 miles an hour. What do you attribute
I
that to?
kind of, based on what I've seen, it's a little bit of both, to where we have emphasized and put so much, importance on home runs that a base hit has no value. And I think it's a little bit of the nerds kind of taking over and being like, oh, this guy's exit velo, and he's done this, and you need some of the guys. Some of the best average hitters have some pretty low swing speeds. They measure that now.
Yeah.
I just don't know if we are. I don't like the idea that there's one way to hit. And so this launch angle has been obviously pushed pretty hard. A guy, Aaron Judge's size, does a great job with it. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see. The problem is you have teams that are really successful, like the Phillies, who have Schwarber that's hitting 200 and leads off. And so if you have that as an example, it's hard to argue with, what they've done. Now, they got a lot of good guys on down their lineup.
And
I don't know.
The Phillies are hitting 289 as a team, so they're doing okay.
Yeah. And, but it's I don't know. I think it is a little bit of both. It's definitely one. And
the Braves are batting $137.
The Braves have been really mismanaged these last handful. The guys they've signed and the guys they've let go. I mean, I think about their shortstop who ended up with the Cubbies. I think about Freddie Freeman and that whole deal to where they couldn't work it out. And I think Olsen is a really good player, but there's something to what Freddie could do. His leadership is – there's something more to it when you're talking about a kind of a pillar stone type guy. Yeah. And I don't know. I just feel like outside, like who could you name? And you're much better than me, but who could you name off Atlanta's roster right now? Or are you looking at it already? Have you seen it
No, I
already?
mean
Looking over?
Austin Riley at third, Arcia, Matt Olson,
Who is Arcia?
Orlando Arcia, middle infielder,
Okay.
Michael Harris Jr. in center field, Jared Kelenic.
I couldn't have named him. I could have named
They
Austin
got
Riley.
the rookie catcher. I just watched a couple Braves games playing the Dodgers. I'm it's kind of fresh on my mind.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could have named two guys. I could have named
Yeah.
Michael Harris Jr. and I could have named Austin Riley. And it's not. I just feel like they used to do for 30, 40 years.
Ozuna, Marcelo Ozuna. I mean,
yeah, Ozuna. I should have been able to name him. They have done a really good job, like putting in their one or two young guys and just kind of keeping the core together.
yeah,
And I think if they've made some mistakes on who they've kept as their core.
yeah. I was actually, oddly enough, talking to JD Klosser, who is the roving catching instructor for the Braves, and I should have peppered him up more and asked him to hop on the pod because I was talking a lot of catching and just kind of learning the new style of catching, right, and talking through that. And we were actually coaching 7-8-year-old coach pitch kind of against each other, a little scrimmage last night. So it was a lot of fun. But good. I played against JD. Good energy.
So he's able to do that and coach.
So he's got a couple of weeks where he's at home. Then he goes out and goes to see the teams for the Braves. But I was asking him about pitchers and how hard they're throwing, and he's like, man, it's real. Guys are throwing really hard. He's like, it's not easy to hit. He's like, it's not 137, but he's like, there's just so many good arms out there. He's like, it's not conducive to health, but it's conducive to guys throwing just the living daylights out of the baseball, which he goes, then you throw a little wrinkle in it, and it's like even tougher. So he's like,
that's what I heard. That's what I heard Chipper Jones say. That's what I heard. He said it's not only the velocity, like there were hard guys back in the day, but what the difference is, these guys got 2 or 3 other pitches off of the hard. You think about Paul Skeens and some of these guys, and and there's not just Paul Skeens. They got somebody coming out of the pen who's doing the same thing and may be able to make it run. And so, yeah, I agree. It's not conducive to health. It is conducive to getting paid, and it is conducive to getting hurt, and it's conducive to getting outs. And so it makes it hard, man. I still think, I saw this thing, and I don't think I sent it to you. I sent it to my father. We're talking about my son's swing and different things. And one of the things that made Barry great, he got to, like, his contact from decision to swing to actually getting his barrel in the zone was like 1/100th of a second, like 0.100 or 0.100. Everybody else is like 0.13 or 0.14. And so that little extra tick of time,
a fraction of a second matters,
makes a huge difference. And so, I think that kind of could be the next place that the swing kind of goes to. Like being able to be here and barrel in the zone has to be an emphasis because, again, the bats, I'm convinced the big league bats are not much different, maybe better than BB Core. The big league ball we know is hard. We know the seams are lowered on the big league ball. And so I don't know. I kind of think we shouldn't be thinking about this. We should, and when I'm doing that for guys on our watch, we shouldn't be thinking about kind of dropping into the backside of the zone. We just need to be getting into the zone as quick as possible and make that kind of. So I do think I think there's going to be some differences over the next 10 years because hitting will catch up. Good programs will figure out how to be productive, and the others will move on. And maybe there's certain guys. Maybe this is some type of reaction stuff. You better be working on your hand-eye coordination and your reaction time to be a big league player because you're going to have to react.
Yeah, and so speaking of reaction, one of my faves, Luis Arraez, I was watching him, and he got into an 0-2 count, had a kind of a tough swing at the second one. And I thought this was just funny, and I want to see if you've ever done anything like this. So I was watching on my phone with my contacts out, so it was couldn't see really clearly, but he either had seeds or gum. And so he steps out of the box, he spit it out, and then hit the seed or the gum with his bat, like while he's like mid at bat, like 0-2, and you can see him just like And then he ended up grounding out to first base. I was like, I just thought it was hilarious when I was watching it. I was like, oh, that's
I
good.
never did it mid at bat. I love to do it on deck because it felt like you were almost getting like soft tops.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely did. I never obviously was at his level, but never in that situation. But never did it mid at bat. But was a big fan of. It's almost like taking soft toss. And I wasn't a seeds guy. So, I mean, I chewed tobacco and played for all of my professional career. But I would definitely I was talented enough, probably, where I could chew tobacco and have seeds. You know,
Nice.
and so
Yeah, I get some of the Old Bay seeds at the Dick's Sporting Goods. I like the Old Bay seasoning ones. Have you had
hey,
those?
I have had those. I had some just recently, sweet and sour.
I don't
Have
know.
you had them?
No,
Don't knock it until you try it, Paulie.
I'm gonna knock it.
You need to get some. It broke into my top 3.
Okay, here's my favorite seeds of all time. They don't make anymore. I think I told you. Jack Daniels used to make seeds, and they would sell them. I think Sheets was the only place I could find them. But they had a barbecue flavor. It was like a smoky barbecue flavor. If you're out there sitting on any Jack Daniels barbecue seeds, let a fella know. I'll buy them off you. Those things were so good. Oh my gosh, they were good. The other thing, watching again some of those West Coast games, the Dodgers still have the traditional organ player that plays in between. I love it so much, and they're so clever. Like somebody walked the other day, and they played "Walk Like an Egyptian" on the keys there. I was like, oh, that's funny. I just like the traditional kind of sounds of it, and it feels like that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
you're definitely an old soul. I do like the first of all, a good crowd at a game, whether you're watching it on TV or you're watching it in person, makes such a big difference in baseball.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, you feel the energy of kind of the crowd there, and there's been a lot of good crowds, early.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing we was talking about too was we were talking. So like we just had that conversation about hey, name some Brave lineup. And as a kid, I was great, and as a teenager and young adult, like I was really, and I realized it was because I used to read the newspaper every day, and the newspaper had that one page that
It
had
showed all the scores.
it had the scores, it had the box scores, it had the lineups, it had the top 10 average, or it had the standings, it had the top 10 average, home runs, RBI. So you knew like, and every day I would check the paper, and every once in a while there was like if it was a hitting streak, the first thing I would go to, like I remember in '89, Jerome Walton had a 30-game hitting streak, and I was like, I would go right to, like every day for that streak, I go to the paper. Did Walton get, like I usually watch the game, but like if I didn't, it was a West Coast game. I'd pop on to see if Walton got a hit, or Paul Molitor had like a 40 game, like in.
You were sick. Yeah, you
Uh,
had a disorder working.
but I would look at everybody's lineup just to kind of see. But I got to know like a lot of players because I was just kind of scanning through, and you just kind of see the same names every day. You're like, oh, this guy, yeah. Oh, how did he do?
Yeah, it definitely was different. I mean, I haven't even picked up a newspaper. I can't remember how many years.
Yeah.
And obviously you can do it. It's different, but I vividly do remember that section of newspaper, seeing all the box scores and seeing all the scores.
Oh, and newspapers used to be, they were around everywhere. Like,
yeah.
You go eat lunch at Subway, there'd be a couple papers laying around, you grab the sports page while you're, eating your sandwich or whatever it is, or just.
No, it's just your phone. But you do have to search it out. It doesn't have the same feel.
No.
You obviously got ESPN and all. Hey, you get advanced stats now on your phone. You can get.
Yeah, I don't need that. Just give me average RBIs and give me the Triple Crown categories. No,
I agree.
Nobody's ever like, oh, how is his OPS? Oh, yeah, that's a good. I mean, maybe some people do, but.
Well, I thought about, we were debating on, because our middle school team isn't hitting. We run into some real good arms, and I was really close to, and I think if I'd have had complete control, if I would have done it, just doing a lineup off of OPS, like tracking it, and just like, all right, the guy with the highest OPS is the leadoff guy, should be a leadoff guy. But then there was a kid who hadn't played. He's played some, but hadn't played some big games. Gotten some walks. Hadn't really hit the ball that well, but just found it.
But he's all
we were hitting. Yeah. And so I was going to hit him second. No, that wasn't my kid or anything. And so then there was, and then anyway, it's just I was going to do a lineup just off of OPS stuff, because in theory, that's what matters.
Yeah. in theory. I don't know. I give it a shot. I mean, it's a middle school game. What's it matter?
We got
It makes for great stories, bro.
We got league
Do it for the pod.
championships. Yeah, we got league championships here. I mean, and club middle school baseball.
Do it for the pod, Brian. Well, we could do that with our travel team in the summer this year.
Yeah, let them play a few series. I agree.
Maybe that's how we'll determine the lineup on Sundays. Like, all right, how'd you do Saturday? Really turn into a pressure cooker for the boys.
Yeah, you got to feel a little pressure. You got to feel it. I'm big on feeling some stress during practice, and I'm big because there's going to be times in the game where you're going to feel some pressure, right? Simulated or real or not real. And so, let's put a little pressure on them.
Yeah. Hey, let's jump over to the association real quick, Brian. A couple nights ago, Steph Curry had a 52-point night. Did you see this?
I saw it, but it did not register as being unique to him because.
Well, the real story. So it's a pretty high point total for anybody. You get into the 50s, it starts to that's impressive, right? Was 12 for 20 from the 3-point line. Do you know what the most amount of 3-pointers are in a game? That's like the NBA.
Isn't it 14?
It's 14. Yeah, Klay Thompson has 14. Curry's had 13, 12 a couple times. But man, so I pulled up the team stats for that game. The Warriors were 42 for 99 from the field. They were 22 of 56 from the 3-point line. So we'll just round up a shot, right? They basically took 100 shots. 56 of them were 3-pointers.
Yeah, if they don't do something, analytics has said that any shot outside of a dunk or layup is a bad shot if it's a 2-point shot. And so that's what the analytics have said. That's what people have really bought in. People have seen. I say Curry has been probably one of the more fascinating players to watch, to grow and develop and become a Hall of Famer, but also may have changed the game in one of the more negative ways collectively.
I think Curry has changed, like legitimately changed the game more than any player, like maybe ever.
Well, you have Bill Russell where they were dunking or couldn't dunk.
No. But Bill Russell was like 7 foot or something. We can't all be 7 foot. Every little boy or girl can jack a 3.
Yeah.
Whether you're 5'5", 6'5", or 7'5".
I'm still a fan of putting a cap on how many threes you can take until the last 2 minutes of the game.
I don't think they'd ever do that, but it's like everybody wanted to be like Mike. Like Kobe Bryant could be like Mike, Vince Carter a little bit, right? But you and I couldn't be like Mike.
No.
You and I could realistically come closer to be. Clearly, Steph Curry is a generational, a world like.
But we could shoot threes.
But we could shoot threes, and you go out and watch like rec league games now and stuff. Nobody's out there trying to dunk; they're just out there jacking threes. Like,
it makes it. And again, there's some really good, talented NBA guys. SGA, obviously, Joker, LeBron, what he's done for a number of years, liking your team on the politics. But it is, it's almost unwatchable, for me. It'll be interesting. I'm gonna try to watch again in the playoffs.
I'll watch the playoffs, of course, yeah, but that's.
But I haven't though. I didn't last year. It just did not appeal to me, and maybe the year before.
And I told you this. We were talking on the phone the other day about my son and I listened to the ESPN morning show on the way. It's like, dude, how much can I hear about Aaron Rodgers and where he isn't? Like, they lead with the same. And the other thing I said is like, dude, when I pull up the ESPN app, like if it's an NBA story, the lead, if they can have it, is like a fight or a scuffle or a skirmish, right? It's like, dude, they're just leading with stuff that it's like clickbait stuff. I'm like, because nobody wants to see the real game. Like it's sad.
I think maybe the next generation has gotten in, and they're the producers. They're the ones that are filling the content, and it's just maybe not meant for us, right? We're the 45 and above group now.
We're
somebody in there there's somebody in there that's getting the 20 to 44-year-olds, right? And maybe that's what they want. I'd say the NBA, based on numbers, are in trouble.
Yeah.
Much more so than baseball. But
Baseball's feeling good right now. It's feeling good.
I would say, speaking of, we spoke on that, I think 3 or 4 days ago, maybe when you mentioned that, maybe it's 2 days ago. One of the first comments when I was taking my son to school today was about Aaron Rodgers and where was he going to sign. It's like you just beat it to death again. And then you mix in a little WNBA that I could care less about. And then that's me listening to somebody else in the morning. I mean, again, I ain't saying – I felt like Greenberg and a lot of those guys had a really good way because everybody knows kind of the news of the sports world. But you got to have a different way of telling the story or getting to some other details that don't just seem repetitive. And like, hey, well, I spoke to his Alnaski sales guy, and he's saying that he's going to retire. And it's like, well, hey, somebody saw him working out with the – it's like, dude, who cares? It's going to work out. We still got a draft. I refuse to watch the combine on that. I won't watch the draft either. I cannot – get into the draft as a watching event. Hey, reading afterwards, yes, that's interesting. But watching that's not an athletic event.
I think if there's like a guy who, like, if there was an NC State guy, or
I would read it after, or if I was kin to somebody that was getting drafted, I would watch it. And I thought they were going to be in the high pick. Otherwise. Dude.
You wouldn't be in the room with them, that party where everybody's gathered?
Oh, yeah. If I was kin to him, he invited me into that room, for sure.
Would you be like the uncle in the back with like your shirt off? Like,
no, I'm much more reserved. I would have a cocktail and I'd sit back there and watch it, but it wouldn't be, I just cannot get into watching a draft. I mean, it's not sporting. It's not competition. This is, I don't know, it's something else. It's almost like watching a pageant. Like if you watch like a beauty pageant, right? That's kind of the same when you watch the draft.
Yeah, I mean, it matters to a lot of people. My favorite's just the gut reaction by everybody on the first, like whenever the pick happens, it's like, oh, geez,
wow, he's 6'3", he ran a 4.28, and his grandma used to cooking, banana pudding, and it's like awesome, dude. That's great. Yeah, you really don't know where the draft is until 2-3 years later, sometimes longer than that. And so, and the same thing, they're doing it with baseball too, right? I mean, that's even really more done with baseball because a lot of guys don't even make it up with their teams. There's a handful of guys. We've seen a couple guys, that have gotten up there really quick. But yeah, the draft as an event to watch, I'm off of that.
Okay. Well, we'll still be talking about it, Brian, when it happens. So we'll rehash.
I'm gonna sit here and stare like I do.
Brian will be in silence. It'll be me talking. So get ready for that episode. But hey, we appreciate y'all listening today. Hey, make it an amazing Thursday. We appreciate it.
Out, go Pack. Hey, my Detroit Tigers 2-4.